Hey everybody, my name is Brendan Noble and I'm a young adult author. Welcome back to my Slavic Saturday series where we talk about Slavic history, mythology, and folklore related to my Slavic fantasy series, and particularly the first book in the series, A Dagger in the Winds. This week we're returning to our traditional format with talking about demons, gods, and things like that after last week's dive into A Dagger in the Winds. And today we're talking about the Chała, or the Allah, or the Woe, which is a Slavic demon of the air, the sky, and storms. And on the topic of A Dagger in the Winds, my newsletter subscribers get a lot of cool benefits, such as early access to all my Slavic side novellas, but also they got the first access to the alpha copy of my prologue so far written for A Dagger in the Winds. I sent that out to them a couple days ago, and if you still are interested in things like that, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter down in the description below. As well as that, I'm still looking for advanced readers for A Dagger in the Winds, which are people who receive an early ebook copy of the book in exchange for a review on Amazon or your favorite retailer. So be sure to check out links for both of those down in the link in the description below. But now let's jump into the Chała. So we've talked many times before about how demons in Slavic mythology tend to be the undead people who either died or lived unnatural lives. And so the Chała actually doesn't fall under this category, though. Normally, this undead category tends to be the majority of demons, but the Chała is one that is just a wild creature that has fallen under the demon category and is not an undead person. So it's kind of a different contrast that we see typically when it comes to Slavic demons. And one of those contrasts also comes with the Płatnik or Zuhach that we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is another demon but also a protector of the winds and weather. And this becomes very important because the Chała is a very negative type of demon related to the weather and the winds. While the Płatnik and Zuhach specifically try to protect certain villages from these damages, as well as particularly their village, the Chała has no particular connection to any village. They are just a wild creature, and so they tend to just cause storms, particularly hailstorms, and damage crops and villages. And so what this happens is there's this conflict between the Chała and the Płatnik that would result in massive battles in the sky between both of them having control over different storms. And these would manifest as massive torrents of rain and storms and thunderstorms across the sky as they fought for control. And we would hope typically that the Płatnik won because it was trying to protect against these damaging storms. So the Chała's appearance are actually just as scary as the creature themselves. They have many different forms they can take, just like other demons in Slavic mythology. They are shapeshifters. They can take the form of particularly a winged serpent, kind of like a dragon, but also they would take the form of either a person, particularly a woman, in the form of lightning, a black void, or even just a raven. And in addition to these forms, Chawas could also potentially take over a person's body for a period of time, just adding to the weird, frightening aspect of this creature. And because of its kind of setup for the creature, it aligns with a lot of myths in that the fact is it wants to scare children as well. And so in these myths and these stories as well, the Chała could also be a voracious creature that would eat anything in its path. Some of the stories about this demon talk about it having a giant mouth that would suck up anything in its way. And particularly during the storms, it was told that they could abduct children. And unlike the Leshy that would abduct children and take them to live into the woods with it, the Chała just would eat the children, which is a kind of dark thing, but probably meant to scare children from going out during storms. But the Chała is so voracious even that it was thought that there would be groups of them that would band together and try to eat the moon and sun themselves, and if they did, then this would cause the end of the world. With the amount of destruction these creatures could cause, is the only thing that could stop them Płatnik? Not necessarily. So because of the rarity of Płatnik and actually how common Chawas were considered, there was kind of an imbalance here. And it was thought that eagles particularly could be a combatant to these Chawas. And while they might not necessarily kill them, the eagles could help divert their storms and push them away from the village and protect the crops. It was also thought that, as particularly among South Slavs, that dragons, also known as Zmai, would fight these Halas in the air and defend the areas around the crops, just like the eagle would, but probably in a much more effective ways. And this is interesting because the Chała kind of was thought to appear, like I said, as a winged serpent, so it might seem as a dragon and a other thing that kind of looks like a dragon fighting in midair. In different Slavic regions, the Chała takes different forms. In some areas of Serbia, it was believed that the Chała had 3 different mouths that served a different role, and a poem talks about it like this. In one mouth, she bears fairies and winds. In the second mouth, infirmity and bad diseases. The third mouth, spells, curses. And this is thought to be because the Chała kind of takes on the form, a combination of some very old demons combined with new ones into the form of one with the Chała. And the idea is that it brings with it, or brings with her, a lot of these supernatural negative things such as spells, curses, diseases that people didn't know how to necessarily describe, which is kind of interesting why the poem talks about this. In Bulgaria particularly, there's stories about a demon that would show up with wings that are vastly wide and the body of a serpent, but it had a tail like a sword. And then there were also tales in Bulgaria that told about the Chała coming as just a black mist itself. And in both of these cases, Bulgaria tended to talk about it as coming with the gales instead of with the storms, which is an interesting twist on the Chała as well. In other Slavic areas, sometimes the Chała was thought more as a creature within the trees than necessarily in the winds. And it could be seen as a trickster-like creature that would eat people, like we talked about earlier, and be similar to the witch we talk about as Baba Yaga, who is a well-known Russian, Polish, and other areas of Slavic myth. She is a trickster. She would lure people into the woods and kill them or eat them, but sometimes she would also help them with weird spells. So the Chała in some areas was also thought to fulfill a similar role to this, which is another interesting twist on the creature and just shows how wide of a variety of stories are about it. In my own stories, the Chała appears particularly in A Dagger in the Winds, but also later books in the series. You might be able to tell based on the name of the first book that the winds are an important aspect of the story. And so the Chała, as a demonic creature that has much power over them, is going to appear as well. And because of this dark power, they become important antagonists for the main characters in our story, Václav and Otilia. But I won't reveal too much more about that. And if you're interested in learning more, though, remember to join my newsletter. And keep watching if you want to learn more about other demons, gods, and things in Slavic mythology that will appear in the series. And that's all I have for you on this week's Slavic Saturday. Remember to like and subscribe down below if you like these videos. And be tune in for next week where we talk about more Slavic myths that are fun and exciting.